All right, hey guys. So today we wanted to jump on in here and talk a little bit about testing your ads and how you can properly test your ads and audiences so that you can find your winners and then kind of move them into scale. And so what we found with clients is testing is the hardest part and really doing that discovery work. And for us personally, we spend a ton of money on testing and and trying basically different ad creatives all over the place. And so a lot of our budget goes into testing. And so once you really get good at this, you realize that you're going to have to do a significant amount of testing. And then once you find those winners, you can really push those to the next level. So testing is incredibly important. And it's also that, when you're starting out, that hurdle that you need to get over so that you can get into some profitability so that you have more money to go back and test with so that you can make more money, right? So pretty crucial part. And so we wanted to jump into that today. So Cole, I'm going to have you pull up the Fuel the Algorithm guide, which most of you guys in this group have. And yeah, so we're just going to start with audience testing. And I know people have quite a few questions around this stuff. So hopefully we can clarify some of this stuff by going through it. But um, the first thing that you want to do is audience testing. If you're starting out brand new and you don't have any ads that you've tried at all, then you're going to have to sort of do audience testing and creative testing simultaneously. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But this is the overall structure that you want to look at when you're doing your testing. So you're going to create a campaign with your objective of conversions, and that conversion objective could be a purchase, a lead, whatever you're really going for. Okay. Then you have to set up your ad set. Is also going to be uh, picking an objective as well. So that's like your that would actually be where your lead or your purchase or your add to cart event is, right? So that's kind of where you dial it down even a little bit more. So just to take that back, your campaign, the objective is going to be conversions. And then on the ad set level, that's where you're going to pick the actual event that you're looking to convert on, right? So I want to convert on purchases. I want to convert on add to carts. I want to convert on leads, whatever that objective is for you. And for us in our systems, we always sell a lead magnet in the beginning, so we're always going for purchases in our ad set. Okay. So the second thing that you do in your ad set is you want to make sure that you're reaching a cold audience every time you're doing your testing, and that means excluding any audiences that your pixel has built in any way at any time ever before, right? So basically, if you haven't done this yet, what you want to go and do is you want to create custom audiences in your ad manager, and those custom audiences will be um, people who have purchased in the last 180 days, people who have visited your website in the last 180 days, and people who have engaged with your Instagram or your Facebook page within the last 180 days. And once you have those custom audiences set up, you go in your ad set and you're going to actually exclude all three of those so that um, your ads are going to just completely, always plow into a new audience, and they're never going to kind of re-hit people that have already seen your ads before. Now, what happens with Facebook is if you do not exclude audiences like this, it's going to try as hard as it can to get conversions. So it's actually going to sort of like auto retarget people and put the ad in front of them a lot without you sort of specifying to do that, and that's going to cause people to see your ad, the same people to see your ads a lot. So by putting these exclusions, you're preventing that from happening, and you're continuing to reach new people in the audience. Okay, and that's why the mid funnel, which we described later on, has such a huge impact on your ROAS down the line, because your mid funnel then collects everybody else that you're excluding, right? Cool. So after you have those exclusions in place and you have your conversion event in place, you go into your detailed targeting, and that's where you choose an interest. We always choose one interest at a time, especially early on in our testing. We just do one interest at a time, and we want to see each individual interest work before we start combining interests and stacking and stuff like that. Cool. So I hope that makes sense to you guys already, just from like a basic structure standpoint. So you're going to go from the campaign objective is going to be conversions. You're going to, on your ad set level, you're going to pick the conversion event you're going for. In our case, it's always purchases. And then you're going to exclude audiences that that your custom audiences, so that you continue to reach into new territory. And if you're again new to running ads, really, and you haven't run many ads, you still need to exclude, because as soon as your ads turn on, they're gonna hit people, and then those people are going to be categorized as either web visitors, engagement, or purchases, right? And so Facebook needs to know that right away to start excluding them and keep building forward.
Yeah, just to jump in on kind of the more theoretical level here is the reason we really want to do the exclusions and we want to make sure that this is continually a cold audience is because the whole point of the testing phase is we're trying to find ad sets that we can continue to get results from. And so if we're not using those exclusions and we're allowing Facebook to kind of do some of its own retargeting for us, then we might be paying for extra clicks to get in front of the same people over and over again, as Q mentioned.
Yeah.
But then also B, it'll be the people, like the people that purchase and that convert for us are going to be the people that, you know, the ad was shown to several times by Facebook. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's not necessarily telling us that we have a great ad set of cold traffic, because it's the retargeting that's converting people, and we want to do that ourselves in the mid funnel. And with the testing, we want to find ad sets that we can continue to get results from in that the cold traffic audience.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's like, you know, if you don't have the exclusions on in a certain audience, your Facebook's sort of telling you that, and you're getting results. It's like, yeah, we get results by harassing people in this audience, but it's not defining whether or not you can grow into that audience or not. And so it's super crucial to have those exclusions. Cool. So Cole, if you want to scroll down a little bit here to the next set. So sorry, right here is what I wanted to talk about a little bit, the individual interests. So again, as I mentioned before, we always pick one interest. So it's like in the detailed targeting, we're going to do fashion, right? And then what we would do is we would duplicate that ad set, and then we would do blogger as the detailed interest in the next ad set. So very quickly, you could see if you wanted to test 10 different audiences, that would be 10 different ad sets that are going out there. And you're testing those interests individually. And once you find those interests that are working well, then you can move to more advanced phases of targeting and, you know, growing. But the key is to really hone in on those individual interests. What happens, what I see a lot of people do is they'll not only stack interests in the beginning, but they'll just put like 5 or 10 different interests all in at the same time. And sure, the ad might start getting results and whatnot, but you never really know what interest the results came from. So if you put fashion, blogger, clothes, shopping, and makeup all in the interests and let that ad run, and you started getting results, theoretically, all the results could be coming from shopping, and you wouldn't know that they were coming from shopping. You wouldn't know which one of these interests it was coming from. So it's crucial to break it down in the beginning so that you know exactly which interests work for you and your business.
Yeah, and the main problem with that, guys, and like you might be saying, well, if I'm getting results, like, you know, why not continue to do that? But the main problem with that is we're setting up our testing so that we can have success at scale. And if we're doing, you know, if we're testing 5 interests in one audience, as Q mentioned, we don't know which one of those is our winning, you know, ad set. And when we go to scale, Facebook's not going to be able to spend all the money anymore in one of those interest ad sets because we're spending more. It's got to go try and find more conversions for us. And we might end up wasting a bunch of money on some of these interests that we put in that, that winning ad set because we stacked it. And now we're wasting money on those when we could have from the beginning figured out, okay, two of these are great interests for me and three aren't. And so now I can take the two to scale and know that I'm not going to be losing my money doing that.
Yeah. You know, you just kind of made me think about some things here, Cole. Like really what testing is all about is getting pretty granular. So that you can really know for certainty what you can take to scale. And I think what most people do is they don't dial it in too much because it's sort of like, again, it's this part of Facebook ads that's like the least favorable, right? You're spending money and you're just trying to discover stuff, so you're like, it's the painful part. So people tend to like pull back on this and not really get granular, but it's when you find those little nooks and crannies that like really work for you, those are the ones that allow you to take ads and scale them to, $100,000 a month or so, or take ad sets and have enough audiences to scale to $100,000 a month and spend. Cool. So if you scroll down a little bit here, what else do we have? So basically, yeah. So after all that is set up, all you do is insert your creatives. And the way that we test our creatives within the audience testing and creative testing is that we put we put in a creative in the ad set, and then we duplicate that creative. So there's two of the exact same ad running to that audience. And we do this because of something called pocket theory. And basically, what that means is sometimes an ad just hits a bad pocket of an audience. So you want to give yourself a chance of hitting a better pocket of the audience. And we found that putting two ads, even though they're the same exact ads, one will usually hit a good pocket and one will hit a bad pocket. And so you're actually kind of forcing Facebook to let an ad hit a good pocket and let the other one hit the bad pocket. Typically, if you just put one ad, the ad just might hit a bad pocket, which is a weird thing, right? And so you want to just give yourself a little bit more security of knowing whether or not that actual ad was good by letting it hit a good pocket. And that's why we do two ads. Sometimes we even go as far as do 3 or 4 ads in that, but I wouldn't recommend that because when you're testing on a low budget, like, 5, 10, 15, $20 a day, two ads is going to be sufficient, and you're going to want to give significant or some spend to those ads. If you add 4 ads or more than that, then the spend is going to get spread too thin.
Yeah, just to expand on pocket theory real quickly, um, just to kind of get into an example, let's take our one interest. Let's say we went with fashion, right? And let's just say that that's 1 million people on Facebook have that interest, right? It's a good ad set for us if there are, a couple 100,000 people of that million that are potential customers for us. Typically, not all million of those people are going to be potential customers. So what Q's saying with the different pockets is, let's say 300,000 of those people could be potential customers for us. That leaves 700,000 that are not. And if you just run one ad, chances are you're going to end up in that 700,000, and the results aren't going to be as good as they could be because we didn't hit the good pocket of people. So with the two ads, we're giving ourselves a much better chance. And there's still a chance that you end up in the bad pocket, and sometimes it's just turning an ad off and duplicating it again to kind of restart it to try and find that. So just because you run a test for a day or two and you're not getting the results you want, it's not always that it's the bad ad set and a bad ad for us, right? It could have just hit a bad pocket. So this is kind of where we're getting into the details here and into the weeds, but just keep that in mind that, sometimes, especially if you've seen it work in the past, you've seen an ad work with this audience. It doesn't mean that that we have to scrap that audience. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, for sure. It's weird. It's just sometimes ads just go down a bad path and they don't hit anything, right? And so this helps us kind of test for that a little bit. Cool. So that's how you do it in terms of the audience testing. So again, it is you've got your ad set with two of the exact same ads in there running to each. And so every new audience, again, this ad's broken down. So the audience, target, interest, fashion, two exact same ads running to that interest. And then you have a new ad set, two of the exact same ads running to the makeup interest, two exact same ads running to the yoga interest, two exact ads running to the farming interest, as we had laid out here.
Yeah.
And so then, and then in terms of budget, there's a couple different things that we do, or ways that you can go about it. And I just want to hit that real quick. So typically what we do is if we have a product that we're selling for, let's say $47, and our break even point is $40, what we'll do is we'll spend $40 a day on that ad set. And we want to spend 3 times the amount of our break even point before we kind of make any decisions on whether or not that is a good ad set or not. That's what we do. That's kind of like a little bit more aggressive way of testing. And that's kind of our little formula there. However, you don't necessarily need to do that. You can spend as little as $5 a day on testing ad sets. What happens when you spend $5 a day testing on ad sets is, you only have $5 that you're spending on these ads, and what the average click is like $2 now or something like that. So you're only going to get a few results every day, and and you're going to have to wait 3 or 4 days to like really see any data come in and see if anything was really accurate or not, or if anything was good or not. And so it's not a whole lot of data that you're going to get for $5 a day. When we spend, $40 a day, we get the data pretty quick, and we start to understand and see what's happening like pretty quickly, right? So $5 a day is fine. You're just dragging out your data a little bit longer. However, I will tell you that there's an interesting thing with Facebook where timing is also sort of a benefit. So you want to let your ads run for 3 days at least on your tests. And if you let a $5 ad run for 3 days, it still sort of like learns more over those 3 days. And a lot of times, because you have such a low budget, you're kind of forcing Facebook to get you some results. So even though it's slower, it's putting time on your side in terms of like the growth and of the campaign. When you spend $40 a day, you're still going to need to let that run for like 3 days so that it can mature over those 3 days. It's just learning at a higher spend essentially. So so you might get a little bit more expensive results, but those results will be more reflective of what the results you will get in scale.
Yeah, I mean, something to keep in mind, and something that I don't think a lot of people think about when running ads is, especially early on in the process and in the testing phase, you're not going to be getting like crazy low purchases and results. Like typically, you're going to be right around the break even point, or even a little worse off than that. Like when we start running a test, let's just take this $47 example where we have the $7 of overhead that Q was talking about. So our break even point's 40. When we the first 2 days of testing on that, our purchases are typically coming in at like 45, 50, 55, $60. We're losing a little bit of money on that. But we understand that there's optimizing that can be done. So that could still be a winning ad for us, or a winning audience for us. And we just want to give it the time to go figure out if it can get lower and lower. And then we'll use new ads, whatever it takes, to try and optimize that and bring it down. I talked to somebody the other day who was selling a $90 product online, running ads to it. And, basically we went through some of her campaigns, and, she had spent like $70 on one test, and decided that that wasn't going to work. But I said to her, look, your product that you're selling is $90. It's going to take Facebook to spend probably a little bit more than $90, or sometimes a lot more than $90 to find some of those purchases before you can get your pixel moving, before the algorithm can help you go find more people like that and bring the cost down. So That's kind of why we do the 3 times break even point spend, because we give ourselves an opportunity to actually get some conversions across the different audiences we're testing. And, obviously it's easier to make decisions where we see the conversions coming in. One thing I wanted to say about some of the lower testing strategy, the lower budget testing strategy, it is very viable, but really what you kind of need to do if you're going to just spend the $5 or $10 a day on your tests, you need to test several at the same time, because the chances are you're probably not going to get, especially if your product's 50, 100 more expensive than that, you're probably not going to get conversions in those 3 days of testing at $5 a day, right? You spend $15 to sell a $50 product, hopefully you get lucky, but that's probably not going to happen. So what I would suggest at those low budgets is test, 10 audiences doing that, and then look at other data points other than just conversions. Look at your click costs, look at what it took, how many people we got to the landing page from that audience, and how much it cost to do that. Was there any add to carts or view contents? Things like that can really help you at the lower budgets decide which ad sets make more sense to go test a little bit higher budgets on.
Yeah, this is all about throwing stuff out there and then looking at the data that's coming in. And Cole, you made a really good point about, things when things are like super expensive. So, for me, I'll go and run ads and I might get $100 per purchase on our testing, and we need to be at like $27 per purchase on our testing. And I'm like, hell yeah, we got to purchase. That means there's people out there that want to purchase this, or and something worked. And so then I go and look at the data and I look at the ads and I look at the angle there, and then I take that ad angle and I take that audience and then I create something new that might work better, or maybe I run it to a different audience, right? And then all of a sudden now that cost is coming in at $50 per purchase, right? Because I took what I saw, I took the evidence of success and then started hacking away at it and trying to optimize it. So that's a great point, because so many people will run $5 a day ad sets, right? And they have a $20 product and they don't get any purchases, for less than $10 or something. And they're like, turn it off, right? In the beginning, you just need to see someone get a purchase. When you see that purchase come in, or that conversion, whatever it is, it's like, okay, something went well there. What was that? You go look at the data, understand what was happening there. Look at the ad. What did you say in the ad? What was the image that you used in the ad? And then you take that information and you take that exact same thing and then you run it again, maybe to a different audience that you think might work better, or you make some tweaks to the ad verbiage, or you really lean in on the angle of the ad verbiage that you were talking about there, and you continue to test that towards other things, right? So, so yeah, I think that's pretty powerful stuff. Basically, yeah, I think we kind of covered it there with the audience testing, but just to wrap up the creative testing, they kind of work hand in hand. So it's like what I was just saying right now was, once you start seeing evidence of an audience that's working and you get a couple purchases on some of those ads, then you got to take those ads and start running them. You take the ads that were working, look at what you think worked about that or those angles, and then you start testing different angles to the audiences that worked. So this is then where you take then you only focus on the audiences that worked, but then you run different ads to those audiences. And so that's kind of how you play it. So again, just to kind of like wrap up the idea, test for audiences. When audiences work, make note of the audiences that worked, and then test new creatives to the audiences that worked, right? Yeah. And then always test audiences against the creatives that worked as well.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like back and forth, but I think that makes sense.
Yeah. And again, it just be audiences that work doesn't necessarily just mean when we got a conversion, especially if we're using those lower budget experiments, right? So when you see certain audiences performing better than others, even if it's just better click costs, more people in that audience clicking to the page, then you want to start testing other creatives to those audiences, because it might just be that our ad's not doing enough to convince them to buy. And a different ad would get as many people to the page, and some of them might convert, type of thing, right? So it's, as Q mentioned, it starts with finding a few ad sets where we can get good click costs, we can get people to the page, and we're seeing interest in what we're selling. And then it's, okay, what can I do with the ad itself, with the image, with the verbiage, with my headlines and things like that, in order to now take that audience and push them to conversions.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, basically, and we'll talk about this in another session, but basically, once you see some consistency in your testing and you're getting purchases consistently in your testing, then that's when you're able to take the next step and move things into scale. Cool. So if you guys have any questions about testing, just drop it in the comment section below. And we'd encourage you guys to like make a post here in the group or ask a question over video or whatever you guys want. And we'd love to hear from you. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. See ya.